Hello!
How are you? How are you?
I'm solid as a rock. We just danced to some ABBA.
We did, I know. We were really having it out there.
We're having a little mood, yeah.
Having a nice time, feeling the heat.
Yeah.
It's a little sticky today.
Yeah.
Welcome
to our podcast. We're doing it.
It's called We Talk
About
About
Film. Sort of in sync.
I know. We're still figuring out our timing there. And then it's also WTAF.
Yeah, WTAF.
And what is it about?
What is it about? Well, it is a podcast for indie filmmakers by indie filmmakers. Literally, it's about the conversations that Justine and I... Oh, so we are Justine and Sarah. I'm Sarah.
I'm Justine.
And it's literally about us talking about film, but then we also have this amazing network of people that are already coming on the podcast, so stay tuned. And it's just like, us venting, problem solving...
Oh, yeah.
Like everything, fangirling, you name it, about film, about the sets that we're on. And we're like, you know what? Why not bring this to a community, to our community, to expand the community, to grow the community, and just have a podcast where we talk about film, talk about the process of indie filmmaking, all the ins and outs, the industry, you name it.
Community, orgs, access to resources. What does that look like? What does networking look like? What does problem solving and leadership look like on set? What kind of stuff are we dealing with in this city, in this country, in this continent?
In other continents?
In other continents?
Beyond North America. So...
Little bios?
Yeah.
All right. Would you like to go first?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I'm
here. Okay. All right. Ooh, sorry, that was a face. I'm Justine. We already addressed this. I am a filmmaker. I did a lot of media arts work for years. I love analog filmmaking and photography, and that's kind of the world that I live in. I've dabbled in commercial. I've done writing all my life, and I went to film school, then I went to art history school, and now I'm going back to school to study medieval history.
I'm sorry for laughing. Justine she's learning Latin right now. Like, what a queen. Everything you do, simultaneously amazes me and cracks me up.
I know. It's all, they all conflict, and, nothing makes sense. And I think you've learned that about me.
But it all does eventually make sense. Because everything you're doing, the universe has a plan. So, it does have... Yeah.
This is true.
The artist doth make art.
So that's kind of a little bit about me. I mean, I right now I'm living up in Innisfil, enjoying my time in the countryside and making weird stuff and using my splicer and really getting back into tactile filmmaking, and that's kind of where I'm at. How about you?
And real quick, I want to say, and you're an incredible photographer.
Thank you.
Justine seems just the all-around most skilled artist I know.
Big words.
I'm Sarah. Thank you for watching our show. I'm Sarah, and wow, sheesh, I feel like I'm just a failed actor at this point, but I say that with the utmost gratitude. I've done a lot of indie projects. You name it, the genre, I've done it. I've been a scream queen for a bit. I've done a lot of comedy. But much like many people in the industry, eventually I got tired of making other people's work or being in other people's work. I was like, I want to tell stories that come from my brain. So I've been writing for a few years, and I have a web series that'll be coming out that's super exciting. And I'm just, staying on that path of just writing projects. And, I've done a few things, I guess, in the industry. Been around a few film festivals or film organizations, and been involved with a few of those, which is super fun. And at this point, it's I love all of that, but really my goal, and I think both of our goals are we just want to focus on our art now. Yeah. Which is why we want to have these awesome conversations about filmmaking, because it inspires us and it anchors us.
Sarah, you've got all these projects coming out, you've got all these things on the go, you've worked on both sides of the camera, you're like highly skilled and coveted, and like I'm just excited to hear all the things you're deciding to do this summer, and like seeing things that I've participated in of your, like the web series. That I was all set for that. That was really cool. And that
you were amazing.
Oh, it was very fun. But I love seeing this decided shift to creating your own stories, because as long as I've known you, you've had the most incredible brain, the most beautiful way of looking at things, and just this way of storytelling that is so sensitive and intuitive and just really gets to the core of things. So to see that mental shift for you to go like, okay, it's time for me now to tell my own story, knowing how good you are, how skilled and how like subtle you are with other people's stories, I think is like the coolest thing to see. So I'm
well,
here
it's
for
kind
it.
of funny too, because like literally no one knows who I am as an actor, but I've been in a lot of indie things, so it's like it's really funny to, it's like, oh, how subtle you are, and it's like, but only you and my mom have seen those things, so
an indie darling,
an indie darling. Or just that one man that just commented on my social media that I think got me mistaken for the lead actress in a movie. Yeah. Well, okay, wait. First, you're reminding me that I did forget to mention that I've, in the process of writing, I really dove into producing. And so I've done a few projects, up to like, I guess I'll say the 3 million scale in the producer's world. But my brain line producing is really in like the $1 million and less scale. And I love that, but not that the numbers matter, but just as far as like crew size and all that kind of stuff. But that's, yeah, I've dabbled in it, but it's not my favorite.
It's kind of how it is though in indie. You kind of have to be like a multi-hyphenate. You have to kind of be good at a lot of things and adaptable, and to keep getting that work, to keep your foothold in that sphere, in that network. And you have to, and especially like as a woman, you have to just get good, being organized, being on it, being just on top of things and showing, and you have to go above and beyond a lot of the times. And like I've seen the work that you've done, and I've heard stories of the stuff that you've produced and line produced, and it's kind of a necessary pivot when you're in the industry, right?
Yeah.
No matter what position you're in, you kind of have to.
At some point. And I feel like, well, either you're good at planning or you hate it, and I feel like you and I both can wear that hat really well, so we end up being good at it, even though it's not like our favorite.
It's like
we're both artists at our core. But yeah, to answer your, what did it feel like? Yeah. I like actually now sitting back. Like I used to love being the life of the party and the center of attention, and like I love to be the one that made everyone laugh, which I still do, but I'd rather make people laugh through my writing and have other actors do the acting. Like I don't need to have my face there anymore. And I'm actually like, I was really shy about even putting my, you were like, should I wear a Sia wig? Like just like we don't see my face, we don't know me. But like I actually love that. I love that I've like evolved into this, like where now I'm like, no, I don't really, not that there's anything wrong with wanting to be on camera. I think certain people just really shine. I'm just where I'm at in my life. I don't, like, I'm not there. Like I don't, as much as I love telling stories, and acting is the most raw expression of human form. I like getting to tell it through like the same thing, but through writing. Yeah, it's interesting. There's like, I kind of similarly this year went through a shift, and I was talking to you about it earlier, of this process of elimination. And I think as an artist, there's a lot of that like discovery going on, where you go through and you're like, okay, I've done that. Do I want to do that again? I don't know. I don't think so. Done that. Okay. Like I've tried wardrobe, I've tried makeup, I've tried production design, I did sound a little bit, which like, just, oh my God, I just literally, and I'm not surprised. And she's a dabbler. She's a dabbler. A little bit of dabbling, like shooting, and I still get people who are like, oh yeah, I remember you shot that thing for so and so. Do you still shoot? It's like, that was just, I was free and I was excited to work with somebody. Like, not something that so
but I kind of go through this process of elimination where it's like, not that. And even as far as storytelling goes, like, okay, I don't know if I want to tell stories like that. Okay, don't know if that's necessarily my vibe. And I'm kind of getting to this place where I'm finding more and more what I do want to do, what I do like, where I feel the strongest and most powerful and the most honest. And but it takes this long of
journey.
Yeah. So it's just interesting hearing that this shift, and I guess this is why this podcast is here, is because we're both kind of feeling this shift, and we still are storytellers at core.
Yeah. It's just how we want to tell them has changed.
Yeah.
Dramatically, I think, for both. Oh, yeah. From where we thought we would be when we were younger.
Even a year ago.
Yeah.
Like, even a year ago.
Wow. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Life slaps you in the face, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about how we met?
Oh! That was loud. Okay, I want to hear your version of how we met,
okay.
and then I want to tell you my version.
Okay. I hope I don't get it wrong. Let's see. So, I was working with this musician who I highly respect, and we collaborated quite a bit.
He's awesome.
Awesome. And he's worked with my sister, and they've collaborated on the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Marlon Chaplin, shout out, super cool, super talented, multi hyphen as well. And so he came to me, and he knew I was working at Lift at the time, which is this organization in Toronto that's analog filmmaking and really supports the community of people who work with tactile film. And he's like, oh, I'm interested in doing a music video. And he kind of sent me some inspo images of Marie Antoinette in the field with the daughter. And it's this iconic scene for me as far as on a personal note, what I would love my family to look like in the future is just us rolling in a field looking at bees.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love this, all this back. I did not know this. This is
yeah, so he sent this to me and I was like, oh my goodness. So I had all these all of these inspo images and these ideas and these and I was like, oh my god, yeah, I want to shoot this on Super 8. I'd never shot Super 8 before. And so I put a call out there, and I think at the time, I don't know if it was on Mandy or Casting Workbook. I feel because of where I was at, it was probably Mandy. It was probably free.
I think it was.
Yeah.
And my agent hated me being on
there. And you're secretly
because she's you're too good. She's I want you on better quality stuff.
Yeah,
but then it was girl, I need money.
You don't understand. And then you find me, and I'm I have $50 for you. A whole $50. So I put the call out there, and Marlon and I looked through, and we both were who is this person? and we had to meet, and I know we talked a little bit online, and we met at Dark Horse on Geary.
Yeah.
And I instantly was in love with you, and I had such a crush, and I felt so self-conscious and blushed, and it was just the most lovely thing, and you were so open and so willing to chat, and you didn't ever make me feel like I was just trying something, or I was new, or I was stumbling, or I was playing around. You took me seriously in the way that gave me so much confidence to actually continue, even though I was kind of feeling the ropes and trying to figure out a new camera and get into this world, and you gave me that space, and so yeah, we decided to work together, and went off and shot a music video in Mama Cliffs Park.
But how long was the hike? It was an hour hiking, 45 minutes. It's a good trek. In October.
Yes.
Which I love to hike, so I was whatever.
Yes.
But we were carrying the gear. We were carrying...
hauling everything. We were hauling everything on our own. And it was Marlon, his cousin, Suitcase Sam, another musician, fabulous. And you and I, and yeah, we were just kind of I was trying to find this location that I used to go to as a kid.
Yeah, so cool.
So what's your version?
Oh my god. Yeah, well, okay, so this is funny because now knowing you and knowing all about you and where your head was at then, because we've talked about it, you literally were the person that you wanted to be or admired. You were literally, to me, when I met you, I was oh, she's one of those cool Toronto artistic girls. One of those, literally my brain was she's too fucking cool for me.
Oh my god.
And then, when I saw you, and then you were so nice, and I was oh, thank God, she's like nice. Like, she's not going to eat me alive. Like, she's like, not that I thought you would eat me alive, but I was just like, she looks so cool.
Oh.
And then, but then you were just like the nicest person. I think that's what automatically brought that respect. And we've talked about this. The more you are giving on set, like we've talked about this with being on set in general, like if you are catering to people and nurturing and like providing and making sure everyone feels good and they're happy, it gives them, it enables everybody to be more creative, more on the ball, work harder. So just like the whole, like, I think the mindset of like, drilling, like it's not valuable.
Yeah.
And of course I think there's, stories where maybe it works, but anyway, that's what made me like really cherish you and really want to like show up and be like super artsy and fun. And the part that like, I think you know this, it was my birthday and I didn't tell you guys.
Yeah.
And that's because, and then in the end you were like, who wants to be on set on their birthday? And I was like, well, let me tell you.
Funny you should say.
My dad was sick at the time. I was dating someone who forgot my birthday. I won't say the name on here, but you know.
Oh, I think I know.
He's forgotten my birthday a few times. And so I was just like, I couldn't be more grateful to not just be on set, but to be around people that were like also artists and letting me be a weirdo.
Yeah.
And the fact that you took me to like this odd, obscure location and I was like, oh, where are we? Take me back again. Like, I feel like I was like, oh, we are destined. Like, this is, I hope we do this again.
Yeah. Yes. And we did. I was shocked after that. Like, there was nothing bad that happened, but I was just like, oh my goodness, like, did I look like such a weirdo? And I guess you were like, yes, I'm here for it. Let's do this.
Yeah. I still have the rubber boots from
Oh, you do?
I think so.
The rubber boots. Yes, the rubber boots. Yeah.
Just give me $50 and some rubber boots.
Here, a little extra perk of the job. Drop some wellies. Oh god. So pretty much the same story.
Yeah.
That's
we're
so
both like,
cool.
oh, you're cool.
Yeah. That's kind of how it's like. It's like, I like you. You're cool. Let's hang out. It kind of feels like when you're kids, like, let's play again at the park.
But then you're afraid to ask to, and then so it was just like work basically related, like, because then you came on Butters, which I was so excited about.
Yeah.
And you were so talented. And like you were I'll say that you were art directing on Butters and like so talented. Literally every time I turned around I was like, you did that? Like I could and you were just hauling ass because you were also the tortured you by making you swing as a wardrobe person because we had a limited budget.
Oh my gosh. But you were too. See, that's the thing though. Like on that kind of a set, everybody supported each other, and we were all wearing many hats, and we all empathized because we saw it's like, okay,
everyone's lifting heavy here.
Oh yeah, and it was like this cute, like family that kind of. And I don't like to say that necessarily. It was like, it's a family because it seems like exploited, but we all like cared about each other. No one, I think that was one of the first sets that, like, if there was a little bit of tension, it was so quickly addressed, relieved, like, and everyone was so nice and aware of each other. Like, everyone wanted to make sure everybody else felt good. Yeah. And that starts like at the top with leadership, with the way that you produced that show, you like wrote that show, of course in collaboration, and you were starring in that show, and you created this environment where everyone felt healthy. Yeah, that was something that we me and my production partner on that consciously talked about. So I'm glad that it read, and that was something. Hopefully, this is helpful for anyone who's new. Cause like, and I'm still in a space of like learning, like I'm always in a space of growing. So I'm not trying to sound like an expert when I say this, but when people who had been on tier A shows came up to me, like a few of our crew had done like, often do like tier A's to C's. And when they were coming up to me saying, this is one of the best sets I've ever been on, I was like, oh, okay, noted. So the thought that went into, like you said, equitable hours, conscious of like, very conscious timing, which is attributed to Emily Monster, who is one of my favorite like 80s in the city. Yes. Shout out to Emily. Say love.
Yeah. Yeah. What a queen. And, so, having a good AD helps, but also just, I think we definitely wanted to create a tone of silliness. And that's also a massive shout out to our first guest who's coming on, Rod. Oh
Yes.
my gosh, if you can get yourself a director that also is a comedian, do it. Do it yesterday.
I know.
Rod, honestly, is the funniest freaking person to work with, and I think he really put that tone in motion.
Yeah.
Like, we were conscious of wanting to create it, but then having him there, like, really solidified. Yeah.
And made everyone feel safe, and it, like, created this levity and this, like, there's, like, this honesty and openness, but it was just also there was a tone of not taking ourselves too seriously in a positive way, not a, like, you know, stereotypical way or a hinge profile way. Or it was like we all felt like we could just be and exist and try something weird and, you know, get over things, and it just put everybody at ease, and it gave us more ammo to, like, you know, do the weird thing.
Be weird!
Be weird! Be weird!
Be weird!
I guess we kind of talked a little bit about why we're here. We're kind of, but like, we could go into a little more.
I want to, okay,
Yes.
I'll ask you,
Yes.
Justine, what made you want to do this podcast?
Okay, so for me, like, hugely, I've always sought out community. I've always craved this feeling of belonging, and also, like, creating this open channel for people to talk and feel good and feel like they're being validated, respected, honored, listened to, and creating those open doors for people to just get to know each other and, like, hear each other's experience. And, like, I guess for me, that's always been through collaboration in film, because this is like a story that always sits with me, a story that I tell. As in film school, I went to TMU, and I was working on my thesis film with DP, who I really admire, who was, like, really there with me. And I was so in my head. I wrote the script in second or third year. I'd been developing, and I got to fourth year, and we were storyboarding, shot listing. We were shooting. When we finally got to shooting, the shots I had in mind didn't feel right, and this person came and just, like, provided this external experience, and that external experience, they provided this, like, other way of looking at things that I didn't quite see myself. And so there were shots that weren't working, and they saw it in a wholly different way, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. And that was the moment in my head of, like, oh, this is important, listening to each other, like, understanding each other's contexts and backgrounds and what they're seeing and what they're reading. Like, we all have this one scene in front of us that we read on the page, and it's been living in my head, but what does that read like to other people? And that gave me this deep love of working in film and collaborating and listening and learning from each other, because I learned a lot being on that set, and it was not a perfect set, and, like, the film is not, but I, like, gained such a respect for the people I work with, and I wanted to always maintain that sense of community and that collaboration that, like, kept me learning and curious and doing better and understanding people better. And so that's a long-winded answer. So this podcast basically was, like, for me, this idea of giving that to other people as well, giving this opportunity to learn from each other, listen to each other, and create this kinship. Yeah. Instead of this division and this competition
and something that we've learned in the process of, like, building this and thinking about how we want to talk about it is gatekeeping. Like, we want our knowledge and the knowledge of all of our guests who are, you know, willing to come on and share to be accessible. Like, really, we want this to feel like a masterclass in indie filmmaking, because we do have a lot of people that are coming on bringing, like, tons of value, and that's really exciting. And we just don't, it's like, you know, while we haven't been in the industry for 50 years, we have, like, access funding. We have gone through, like, oh, what happens when you suddenly need to be accountable to an investor, or, you know, these different things. And, you know, taxes, all this stuff. And so it's like, if we can provide some kind of help or advice or even just relatability, that's like something that's exciting, I think, for both of us.
Yeah. And so I guess that kind of tethers into your answer in a way. So what exactly, like, made you want to start this and get into it and really, like, dive?
My honest answer, you.
Oh!
You, because I actually was, like, I was really in a space of, my socials, like, I've dabbled in being a silly person on, like, the TikTok. Another on the talk, and another, you know, social, like, I'll do the things, and sometimes they go viral, it's great, but I'm not consistent. And then I, you know, like I've gone through a lot in the last few months that you know about, and I like was really stepping aside from wanting to be on camera, literally filming a potato.
Yes.
Which I don't think I've even shown you, but it's in the kitchen. But like literally filming a potato for months because I don't want my face on the internet, but I still want to be silly. And then you were like, Sarah, like, let's do the podcast. And I was like, you know what? I really want to do something where I challenge myself, and it's time to just get over the fear of the camera again, which is funny because I've been on camera for so long.
Yeah.
But because I have so much trust in you, and like you always hold such a beautiful space around you, I was like, okay, if I can do this with anyone, Justine's the person.
I feel the same about you. Like, you've like indulged so many weird film photo ideas, and you're always there, and even if things didn't work out, you were still like so open to trying again, trying something new, like, and so I know this is just another one of those projects where we're sitting together and we're having fun, and if this can be something beautiful and wonderful and help other people and have some sort of existence in life outside of just us being here and like chatting and having a nice time, like, that's amazing.
Yeah, like, you know, we're sitting here like, oh my god, I adore you, but hopefully it's like it becomes this thing where like this is the community, because we have so many like segments and stuff that we want to involve people with.
The segments.
And, the segments. And so like, you know, as much as we're like sitting here like, I love you, like we want it to feel like this space where like there's a community feel of that.
Yeah. Posture. Yeah, I worked in an office job for a long time.
Oh,
so
me
like,
too. Every day I do the workout, like this arm. Ooh.
Oh god, we're snapping. This is what happens in your 30s, just snap, crackle, pop, and
snap, crackle, pop.
So we have like a couple segments and things that we wanted to just bring into the mix, keep it interesting, have some sort of a flow, have some fun engagement for our listeners, our community, our guests, and ourselves.
Yeah.
And we, what are they? Prompts from a hat.
Yeah, prompts from a hat.
And that's just like a writer's block kind of situation where we're like giving each other, kind of like in 48-hour film festival, we're picking like a genre, a location, a character, and an object, and like giving that and putting that out into the world and seeing if somebody is like gonna take and run with it.
Yeah, and that's just for you guys to, you know, if it's inspiring, write a story.
Yeah. And for us, we're just sitting there,
reading them.
We'll
read the prompts.
Dreaming up our own feature film.
The worst direction I've ever given or gotten.
Yes.
Which is, I think, pretty self-explanatory.
Oh.
But it's also like, am I alone in this? Have I? So share those. Goodness. Oh, WTAF SOS.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's like a little... If you need a little help, if you need a little advice, if you want to hear another contrasting opinion to something that you're dealing with, to a situation you've experienced on set, off set, your own personal practice.
Yeah, like any roadblock you're having with your production, whether it's pre, during, post, like, you know, write into us. We'll sound it out on the show, either with the guests, you know, depending on what, you know, who's there. We'll sound it out. So that's that. And we're at a cottage right now. There are dogs. I'm sorry if they're loud. We're filming at a cottage. Had to say that real quick. Oh, yes. There's some barking dogs, so...
The chatty puppies.
We would love to bring the dogs in, but we're sponsored by dogs.
This podcast is sponsored by dogs.
Sponsored by dogs. We'll bring them in at the end.
Oh my god, yeah. And here they are. The dogs at the end.
Love the dogs.
Oh yeah. They're very, very sweet. Very cute and fluffy. And our last segment is hot lunch.
Hot lunch. No, hot lunch.
Hot lunch. Oh no!
Now let's hold them.
And our final segment is hot lunch horror stories, which can be very anonymous if you like, but also we're happy to name names. No, we're not gonna divulge like that. No. It's not up to us. But it's basically we've all had our fair share of weird situations on set, things that have gone wrong, things that we notice that are like, oh, that's weird, and you learn from it. What is the worst thing that ever happened to you on set? What is the worst thing that we want to hear?
Did you get a weird accident that, you know, Some of those you probably can't talk
Oh,
about.
God.
I have an accident I can't talk about that I'll probably talk about today. But in that segment. But,
Okay.
or like, did you have to pick leeches off of an actor's body, which Justine...
Yep. Yep, had to happen once. Yep. Yeah.
So all those good biddies.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
your horror story from set?
Yeah.
So write us in.
Yeah, give us the deets. We want to hear it. Spill the tea. We want to know.
Okay, what's the worst direction you've ever given or gotten?
Okay, so I mean, as someone who's still like navigating their way in the directing world and trying to figure out what my style is and who I want to be as that person, the worst direction I've ever given was on Sprezzatura. There were a few things that I said, like there was one point, like there was a question that you and Alana had in a scene.
Me and the other actor.
Yeah, Alana's like an amazing, talented friend that I've known since high school, and she's like, oh my god, brilliant and beautiful, and like working with you two, I just felt so lucky that both of you were said yes to being on this set. And so that was like an intimidating thing because I was now working with two people that I respected and loved like very much, who I've seen their work, and I was like, oh my god. So I was in my head a little bit, and I was trying to figure out how to be collaborative and open-minded and not too bossy. And so y'all had a question in a scene outside, and you said, well, what do you think, Justine? And I was like, well, what do you think? As actors, what do you feel is the most natural? And like, Elena looked at me, and you were like, I think you'd had your day, because like the amount of stuff that you had to do, running paper back up and down, and you were doing multiple things and getting like a little, I could see that you were like, oh, Justine.
Oh, like make
Justine.
a choice?
Yeah.
Is that my face?
You were like, all right. And
I don't
Alana,
remember.
oh my gosh, you were like, oh dear. And Alana just looks at me and she's like, you're asking me? You're the director. And I was like so grateful that she said that, because I kept saying, well, what do you guys think? Well, what would you do in this character? And then the worst thing I think I've ever said, you two were in the bathtub scene. There's a bathtub scene where there's like an intimate kiss, and Sarah's in the bathtub, and you've been sitting in like a tepid / cold tub, and Alana's trying to have this intimate moment with you, and they're like, the tone of conversation I wanted to shift slightly. I wanted it to be a little bit softer, and I didn't know how to communicate that, so I was like, imagine it as a whisper embodied into your heart, or something like to that effect, that I was like, and both of you looked at me again, just like, oh, honey, like, what does that mean?
That actually, but to be fair, my woo-woo hippie self loves notes like that.
Yeah.
Because that is like, if you say embodied into your heart, I'm like, yes, you're
like,
speaking my language. Like, yeah, that's what I vibe on.
Yeah.
Heart space. But I think at that, like, it was just the end scene. So I was just exhausted. That's all.
No, you both were so nice and respectful and patient with me. And like, that was such a nice set for me to like kind of get my sea legs, I guess.
I don't think that's a bad direction. I don't think that was a bad direction. I think we were just tired.
And I just always remember being like, oh my god, that's the weirdest thing to say, because there's nothing for anyone to really work with. It's just like some poetic language that doesn't help anyone.
Right. Clear language is very helpful, and a clear choice is very helpful as an actor.
Yes. Giving like physical, real... That came with time for me to see. Even as an actor, like I did a little bit of acting, not a lot, but when I know what good direction for me is, and what is not clear enough for me. Yeah. And one of those, that the worst like direction I've ever received, I hate when people say, make it bigger.
Make it bigger.
Make it bigger.
Can you make it bigger?
Into it.
Yeah. Can you just make it bigger? But what do you mean by bigger? Because I can just be louder. Do you want me to be louder? Emote more. Well, no, give me like... tell an actor to cry, it's going to be the ugliest thing you've ever seen. Yeah. You know? Because we're like, the whole thing is like, if you want emotion, you have to inspire what brings that emotion. And that, like, you have to be trying not to cry in order to be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're given, and that's like the level of vagueness because there's nothing there for you to work with.
Make it bigger.
Make it bigger. And I hear that still in theater. It's like, let's make it bigger. And I just look and I'm like,
the theater loves to be big.
How about you? Worst direction you've ever given or received?
Okay, so mine's a two-parter. Okay. It's simultaneously the worst direction I've ever received, and because I have not really yet been a director, other than telling my friends what to do in plays that we made up when I was a kid, because I loved to be the one that planned everything.
Yes.
But the worst direction I've ever received also is my on-set horror story. So it's my hot lunch horror story. So this is, I'm mixing segments here. But basically, I had a series of accidents on one film set. I think you know this story, but I don't know. So day one, basically, I was accidentally punched in the face. And so this is worst direction number one. Stage combat 101. You go far away from the face. If I'm far away from my face, but I react, it's going to have an authentic feel. Yeah. If I'm too close, it's just not going to have, if I'm too close, obviously you're going to risk making contact.
Yeah.
So worst direction number one was, can you get closer? And I was young. I was in my early 20s. So I thought you had to do what the director said. So I was like, yeah. But then of course what happens is the actor unfortunately makes contact. And side note, there should always be a stage, a stunt coordinator on set. There should always be a stunt coordinator on set for any stunts. And you definitely need to have insurance. Yeah. It needs to be both. You need to have rehearsals for stunts and you need to have insurance. This set had neither. And so the actor makes contact. My nose is visibly broken. It's on camera and I'm allowed to tell this story legally. And you can see that it's broken. But of course, like a queen, I finished the scene. Oh. Movie's not exactly something I want to share. But the great moment for me. I was like, my nose is still broken and I'm going to keep acting.
And you keep going.
No, because I was grateful to be there and the story was about abuse, ironically. And then, same thing 5 days later, we had this whole long day where we were working with horses and the horse we had that was meant to be my character's horse had, just wasn't treated well from the get-go. Before we showed up, not ridden enough, all that kind of stuff. And, we saved me riding the horse for the final scene of the day. So that's also a bad directorial choice. Ooh. /AD/ things that should have happened on this set that just didn't.
Yeah.
And so we're saving the worst scene for last with a live animal. And this is from a film school, which no film schools should not allow livestock to be in films. Students should not be working with livestock.
Not at that phase.
No.
You don't have any responsibility or sense of accountability or anything.
And no animal wrangler, no stunt coordinator. And I grew up around horses, so I was like, okay, bit of a horse girl. I can ride a horse. I grew up riding horses.
Yeah.
It had been a few years, but not that far out that I was scared or anything.
Right.
But because the horse was visibly upset all day, I was worried about getting on him. And the other actor, the one that accidentally broke my nose, he's so kind. He was the kind, he felt horrible. Oh. He actually had horses himself. And so he knew, he was like, oh, this horse is not good. And
so he could tell.
Me now, I would have said, I'm not getting on the horse. I don't feel good. But in your early, I was I was I don't want to be the bad actor. And so we're doing a trot in the corral. Everything's fine. We get out to the field and this is bad direction again. The director, he sees, we're getting the shot with me, I'm riding. It's fine. We have a certain pace. Mm-hmm. Should have been fine with that. We had a take that was safe. And this is my comfort zone. Just, But then he asked me to pick up the pace. And this horse hadn't gotten to graze, but we're in this field where now he gets to eat grass.
Oh, yeah.
What does he want to do? He's like, fuck this bitch that's on. Oh, sorry. He's like, get this freaking girl off of me. So he bucks.
Yeah.
And so me thinking I could just be Jackie Chan, I was like, I'm going to tuck and roll. Because the horse had bucked, kicked really high. Oh. So I'm like, oh, well, if I had hung on, that would have been ugly. So, the way he bucked pretty good. Oh. So I was like, okay, I'll let him fling me off, but I'll tuck and roll like a superstar. Mm-hmm. No, I landed on which actually side note, if you tuck everyone, stick your hand out, that's worse. So luckily I had the right instinct I tucked and held myself in with my arm, like, do not extend your arm. So I'm glad I had the instinct to do that, but I landed right on my shoulder. So I broke my collarbone.
Oh.
So 5 days apart from one single film set, I had 2 different broken bones. So from the nose I had, and I have photos, but I had, the black eyes. And so then it was funny because I actually needed to be my character needed to be abused, so makeup didn't need to do anything because I already had the black eyes naturally.
Oh no!
And then here I am getting bucked off a horse because the director
God.
wanted me to pick up speed on a horse that didn't get to graze all day. It was just like bit after bit after bit of like poor choice, but also me, like, I'm not going to fault that director. The school should definitely should not have allowed any of that to happen. Huge problems there. And this poor kid, like, it was just his dream to make a movie. And he was like, I loved the story he wrote. So I feel awful that all this happened. And then, but then me also, like, I should have set stronger boundaries. So when you get if you get direction that makes you uncomfortable, you're allowed as an actor to say that doesn't, like, I don't feel good about that.
And it's hard to, as a young artist and as someone who's trying to, like, you're hungry and you're trying to get out there, there's such a hesitance, like a hesitation around being able to advocate for yourself, because exactly like you're saying, you don't want to appear difficult, you don't want to appear like a diva, and also, like, I hate saying this over and over again, but as women in arts, that we often get, like, siphoned into this identity of, like, complaining harpy and, like, she's difficult and, like, like, even the
she's
diva,
difficult.
she's difficult, and that and even just what we have to deal with, like, being in our cycles, and it's like you just have to kind of, like, toughen up and keep carrying on.
When we're not like, women should not have to work when we're on our moon. That's a whole thing. But at the same time, like, as an actor, it's like, oh, but I want to work any day. Like, work feels good for me. Right. But, like, generally, like, having to be on set and, like, lift fingers when we're on that phase of our cycle, we're not intended for that. So that's...
No, and we're supposed to not show any pain. We're supposed to, like, be tough and keep going and not cause a stink and not cause a riff. And, like, it's got to be seamless. And because in the end, it's our reputations. And, so it's hard. It's hard to feel, like, the strength to be able to speak up. But it's important because that sets the tone for the rest of your career, your life. Yeah. Like, dangerous things could happen if you didn't have that instinct. If whatever other variable was introduced, that could have been a lot worse. Yeah. And you were very lucky that things ended up the way they did, and you still came out of that with 2 broken bones. And we're like, and so the fact that you felt that hesitance, that fear to speak up for yourself, I'm glad that you've come to a place now. But I wish, and I feel the same about some things where it's like, I wish I spoke up sooner. Yeah. Yeah. Just speak up, like, when you're feeling it, or, like, maybe, like, make sure that feeling is what you're really feeling, but speak up close to when you're feeling it, because otherwise it'll just fester, or it'll get worse, or Okay, so what's your or spin out? I'm gonna get back to horse. What is your onset, your hot lunch horror story? Tell me the tea. Give me the tea. Give me the tea. Give me the tea. All right, let me. So, it was this. Which one? Oh my god. Can we talk about the leeches? Can we talk? Oh my god, yeah. Let's do. That set, the directors, it was a collaborative team, and they were incredibly creative, kind people with these beautiful ideas, and they really had a good sense of storytelling. But whatever happened on that film, I do not know why, but everything went wrong. Like, it was one of those sets that you hear about where it's like the legend. Was it The Raven? Is it The Raven? That movie where everything? I think it's called The Raven. There was like that, like, literally a person passed away. Like, there was, like, awful. It was. Like, I'm not saying that was that. Yeah, but it's like where it's like, how does this keep happening over and over again? So, like, oh gosh, where do I even begin? Like, the production designer quit halfway through, and I was working with my friend. We were like set dressers and prop people, just on a small indie short. And so she left, and we didn't know what to do. And then we had these actors that were on television shows that I'd seen myself on like big shows on primetime television back in the day when we used to watch TV on cable at that one time that they had it playing on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever. And so I'm on the set, I'm like a little enchanted by, oh my goodness, we have these amazing actors, and I got to work with them. But they had to go into this pond that was full of beavers, and they came out full of leeches, and I was like picking them off in the wardrobe trailer that was on the other side of a 30-acre property. The DP and his crew were like treated very well, but they did not treat anybody well at all. That was probably the worst like conflict between camera and art I've ever. They were just so horrible. I had someone put a hot Ari light on one of the carpets I rented that was on my credit card that I had like, at that time I had like a $3,000 limit, and I was working like 2 days at a bookstore. And so there were just all these things that kept happening. There was one point
side note, production should have had that on their card, but
yes, I know. And then, so the leeches, the DP at the end of the production, it was nighttime, and we just shot our last shot by a big fire, and the sound person, who was a really good friend of mine, he was doing room tone, and so everyone was quiet. And the DP lights firecrackers, and he fell back. The sound person fell backwards, like because he set firecrackers off right beside him while we were doing room tone. So it was just one thing after the other. Like the producer was feeding my friend and I caffeine pills because we'd been up for 3 days out in the middle of a field, and like it was so bad. I have like 3 pictures from that set, and one of them is me and my friend eating like a pie out of the back of a truck because we had no food. They kept forgetting us at lunch, and like, another bad direction. The director was like, we had this massive bonfire that was we had no fire safety, nothing. Back of a field, no vehicles, and it's flaming, it's huge. And the director, or one of the directors, comes up to me and they're like, can you make it less smoky? I'm like, no, I don't know. So it's just like everything.
And it's a real fire?
It was a real fire. Because we were we were kind of the keepers of the fire, and it was just, there were just so many
Which
things.
also, that's a whole layer of things that when you're shooting with real fire, that's a whole, like, oh my gosh, my safety brain right now is like, alarm bells, red flags. Okay.
It was 1 year out of film school for me, and 2 out of so we were all really young, and like I don't fault them necessarily, although like the amount of time something really bad could have happened and didn't. Like again, they're very lucky, but
a few bottom line things. Know what kind of water the talent is going into, and be prepared ahead of time. 2, live fire. Have a plan. Have a very strong plan. 3, everyone gets fed. Everyone gets fed. Doesn't matter. That's a non-negotiable. I don't care if you're union, non-union, because obviously on like certain sets, it's their job to make sure that every single human gets fed. But sometimes that gets forgotten if we're in the non-union world, and depending on the budget scale, and this had a decent budget, right?
It had an okay budget because they'd had such a successful film in the previous 2. They had received, people were very interested in working with them,
right?
And we all were very curious. So people were very interested in working with them, like myself included. I'd seen the films they'd made before, and I thought, oh my god, I want to be involved. I want to learn from them, and I did learn from them. It wasn't the lessons necessarily I thought I would. It was mostly like, okay, what do I not want to do?
Yeah, that's the one thing though for me. Like, if people forget to get fed, they will walk from a set. Like, that is how you upset your crew the fastest. Yeah. Do not forget to feed anybody.
Do not forget, and also let them sleep. Like, if things are running behind and the only way you can get ahead is for your 2 art people to not sleep for 3 days in a row.
No. Have turnaround. Figure out a rotation so that everyone has turnaround. That's
caffeine pills is not the answer.
No, that's not great. No, everyone respect the 11-hour. Those are certain guidelines that whether you're on a union set or not, like if you can respect the 11-hour turnaround, do it. Just don't sacrifice people's sleep.
I feel bad. It was like, the film I did see, and it was a really pretty film, and I know they're doing both. I think I know at least one of them is doing very well now, and I know that they learned their lesson.
Mm.
That sounds so harsh. They learned their lesson. I know that they learned from that because the way that I see that they participate in the filmmaking community now is very much like a respectful, collaboration, and the tone is very different. So I think that was a hard lesson for a lot of people, and I know it was tough. And it's hard to talk about because I feel bad because I genuinely understand how those things can happen, and like you don't intend for those things to happen, and they do, and humans are humans, and so like some people's actions are going to be bad regardless of how you are as a leader, and you just know, I'm not going to work with them again. Like, I'm not going to hire that DP anymore.
Or have they learned? Or exactly. What's her other segment?
Oh,
because we have
advice, but like we don't really.
We don't have advice. Okay, I feel like we've given a lot of with our 4 segments, we have worst direction I've ever given or gotten. We have the hot lunch horror stories. We have WTAF SOS, and we have prompts from a hat. All of those segments, we want you to write into us. So like, give us your horror stories. Redact what information you need to redact so that you're not like, we don't want to blast anybody. We're not here to bring shame to anybody. No. But as diplomatically as you want. Yeah. Like if you have a horror story, like tell us and that you want to share.
Yeah.
Or if you need advice, like we definitely want to like help you clear some roadblocks, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Offer like another opinion. We see it just how we're talking with each other. It's like, okay, help you navigate it.
Yeah.
We might not have the answer, but we definitely can field that for you a little bit.
Yeah. Right? Whether we have slightly more experience from you, or we're peers for you, or we're a little bit more novice than you, we might have a good idea or two. We might. No, I think we have a good, like, we've witnessed enough that I feel it. Yeah. So write in. So our final segment is WTAF SOS.
Yes.
And it's literally where you can just send us in some prompts. So we do location, genre, character name, and object.
Oh, so that's prompts from a hat.
What did I say?
WTF.
So our final segment is prompts from a hat. So you get to send us in 4 prompts, and we'll read them out loud on the show, and then you're just left to your own devices to make a fun story.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it. So you send in a character name, location, genre, and object, and we'll read them aloud.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have some prompts, Justine?
Oh, we do.
Oh, my gosh. Example. These are sent in by us.
Okay, so we have a location, which is a secluded beach. All right, and we got, should I do the voice? All right, we got a location, we got a secluded beach here, and we got our genre. Genre is a dramedy. Going once, going twice, dramedy. And our character name, Rita, lovely Rita, meet a maid. Yeah. Lovely Rita, meet a maid. And we have a fishing spear as our object.
Fish and spear dramedy.
Dramedy.
I want to read one.
What's yes.
Okay. I already knew which one I was grabbing because it's yours, not mine. Okay. This one is location, The Hatch in Lost. Ooh. But genre, sitcom. Character name, Shirley. Shirley with like, of course we would go with like 4 of these names. Object, a toe ring. This tickles me. A toe ring. Shirley with the toe ring in her sitcom glory.
All her sitcom glory.
And there you have it. Those are our 4 segments.
Oh yeah.
We want you to write us in, get involved. You need some advice.
Oh yeah.
You want to take part in the prompts from a hat.
Send us one. Send us one of the 4 prompts.
One of the 4
prompts. Send us
yeah. We'll combine them.
We'll mix and match. We've got, we're going to pull them out. We're going to tell you, we're going to give you something to work with. We're going to give ourselves something to work with.
Right, mate, and then send us in your worst direction you've ever given or gotten. Send us in your horror stories from set, your hot lunch horror stories. Yeah. And that way we can make sure that everyone who's listening gets to be involved with our show, which is what we want.
We want to hear it. We want to know it. And you never know who's going to have an answer for you. You never know. An answer. Anyway.
That's our show. WTAF. What the actual... No. What the actual... Wait a sec. We
What?
talk about film. We talk about film.
With Sarah and Justine.
Justine and Sarah. Oh yeah, and our media company is Yas Media.
Yas.
So you can also
Media.
send us in your best Yas.
Send it in. Send it in. Send us one of those weird voice notes, but don't go on forever. Just 50 seconds maximum.
50 seconds. Yas Media.
Don't forget. All right,
And that's our
Sarah.
show.
We had
Oh
fun.
my gosh, we made it. We made it the thing.
Oh.
Thanks so much for listening to the WTAF We Talk About Film podcast by indie filmmakers for indie filmmakers. If you haven't already, please subscribe to us on Apple or Spotify. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube at Yas Media Pod, and Yas is spelled Jas as in Justine and Sarah. You can also follow us on Instagram at WTAF Pod and on Facebook at Yas Media Pod. We'd love for you to subscribe to our newsletter at yasmedia.ca so you're always in the know.
We'd love to hear from you, so if you feel like submitting to any of our segments, whether it's worst direction I've ever given or gotten, WTAF SOS, What the Fact, Magical Movie Moments, Hot Lunch Horror Stories, or Prompts from a Hat, we would love to hear from you. Send us an email at yasmediapodcast@gmail.com or DM us at WTAFpod. Please send us some stuff. We want to hear from you. We love you. Yas. JAS Media.